Hi, my name is Giselle Thompson, and I'm hosting the Live the Life You Want series. The goal here is to learn ideas and strategies to help you overcome adversity, be happy, and live the life of your dreams. And part of the reason I'm doing this is because it reflects my own journey of just getting a little bit lost in the busyness of life and realizing that I had stopped doing the things that made me happy, and picking up the path and the journey to start doing those things that make me happy. And I just want to share that with everyone who's listening. And today I'm interviewing Sara Oliveri. She is a coach, and she really is focused on helping people have a more deeply fulfilling life, and also to operate happier organizations. She has a degree in positive psychology. She's been a professor at the George Mason University. She recently did a TEDx talk on the 2 steps to lifelong happiness. And also recently she launched the American School of Professional Life Coaching. So Sara comes with a lot of experience. And one of the reasons that I am excited to have Sara with us today is she studied the science, the evidence to support positive psychology, the math behind why it works. And I really feel that brings an extra dimension of depth and rigor to her experience. So welcome, Sara. Thanks for joining us on the interview today. I really appreciate you coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Giselle.
Yes, thank you very much. That's great. So the focus of Sara's interview today is about self-care and listening to yourself. So important, and we get so caught up sometimes in life that we forget these simple things that help us just cope better with everything that we have to deal with. So I'm going to start with the questions. So Sara, why is self-care so important? And also more practically for the listeners today, what does self-care look like?
Yeah. So, self-care, I feel like, is just one of the most foundational skills in leading a thriving, fulfilling life. Why is it important? Because without it, we simply cannot thrive. We have to take care of ourselves in order to be as functional as we want to be as loving as we want to be as productive as we want to be as happy as we want to be. And I also believe that self-care is very instinctual, that all of us have an innate instinct to care for ourselves and to care for our lives. But I find that often a lot of the values that we learned and the expectations of society and the people around us can start to get in the way of that. What does self-care look like? Self-care looks like considering your own needs, considering your own well-being, and considering your own values and what matters and feels deeply important to you in how you make your decisions, how you design your life, and what you do from the time that you wake up to the time that you go to bed at night.
So could I invite you to give a concrete example of somebody who works full-time and maybe has a couple of children? What would that practically look like, when they wake up and they get ready for work and they do their day? Where do they fit in? Practical things about self-care.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could look so many different ways, but I'll give you a personal example. So something that I realize is really important to my self-care and me feeling like I'm thriving and like I have energy, etc., is exercise and physical activity, and getting my heart rate up on most days. And that doesn't have to mean going to the gym for 2 hours. So, for example, I was at home, during a difficult time in my family 2 weeks ago. And what I would do is that, I would carve out just 15 to 30 minutes during most days to go and do some plyometric, do some push-ups, do some lunge jumps, do some squat jumps, every other day, if not every day. And sometimes that workout would only take me 15 or 20 minutes. But when I did that and when I allowed that to be okay, I felt so much better. So that's a simple example. And, exercise is not the most essential thing for everyone. But I think that example shows that self-care does not have to take up a lot of time, but what it does have to entail is us considering ourselves, considering our needs, and giving ourselves permission to make space for those needs.
Thank you. That is abundantly clear. That's awesome. And we need to be reminded that it's okay to give ourselves permission to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, this is awesome. I'm going to move into the second question if you're ready.
Great.
And we talked about the importance of listening to yourself. So in a way, we've talked about that a little bit in the first question. How do I know if I'm not listening to myself? Why should I care about listening to myself? And what can I do to do a better job tuning in to myself?
Right. Yeah. I think that those are really important questions. I'm so glad that you asked. I think that a lot of different things start to happen when we're not listening to ourselves that we can look to as signs. The first ones that come to mind and that I experience and that I witness my clients experiencing are, number one, when we're not listening to ourselves, we don't feel fulfilled and we don't feel satisfied, right? So we might be working really hard, working our butt off, but for some reason, we're not reaping that sense of meaning and that sense of fulfillment and satisfaction. And that is usually because either we are neglecting our personal needs in order to do it, or because we are failing to listen to ourselves in another way, which is that the work that we're doing and the goal that we're pursuing is not actually something that resonates and matters to us on a deep level. Some other telltale signs that we are not listening to ourselves are feeling resentful. This is one of the biggest ones to me, and that I have experienced and that I have watched people experience. I find that when we are not listening to ourselves and when we are not taking care of ourselves, we begin to resent other people who we feel like we are contributing time and energy to. We resent people sometimes when they ask of us, right? When they ask us to be of service to them or to give to them. We feel like that's really not fair, and we sort of resent the and the emotion that we invest. And then the other thing that we can feel resentful about is when we witness other people taking care of themselves. And I know that this happens to me, right? Like I might be in a week where I am not listening to myself as well as usual. And then, my husband will be like, oh, I'm going to the gym, or I'm going out to get some food. And I'll have this like wave of resentment. Like, how dare you make time to go do this thing for yourself? And the reason why I feel that way has nothing to do with him. It's because I didn't afford myself that same permission, and that same awareness. And so one of the most dangerous things about not listening to ourselves is that we end up taking it out on the people that we care about. And we don't show up for them in the ways that we would like to. So I would say that those are two of the biggest signs, and they don't necessarily both happen at once. But if either of those things are happening, I think that it's usually a sign that we aren't listening to ourselves. And I guess the last one I would say is just feeling burned out. Which is a little bit more perhaps obvious. But when we feel burned out, when we feel like, I notice this in my clients a lot, when we feel like we are trying really hard to be productive and we just can't do it, right? What I find is that people often interpret that as they're just not trying hard enough. They're just don't have enough willpower. They just don't have enough focus. And very often when I really look at their circumstances, the truth is that we are having trouble being productive because we don't have the bandwidth. And there's actually a lot of psychological research around that, about how we only have essentially a finite amount of willpower each day. So if we've used it all up and we expect ourselves to go home and work on this side project for, the next 3 hours before we go to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning, and then we're beating ourselves up because it doesn't happen, it's usually not happening because we lack the willpower. It's not happening because we haven't given ourselves any rest. So those are the three that I would look for: is not feeling fulfilled, feeling resentful, and feeling burned out, or feeling like you are trying to be productive, but you're just not.
Wow. So I'm like 3 for 3 where I was.
So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember trying to wake myself up in the morning, say, get up, come on, you got to get up, like just beating myself up, waking up. And I'm like,
right.
Okay,
right.
This just is not good. This can't be good. I got to stop doing it. There's got to be another way. This is not good. I'm resenting myself waking me up this way.
Right. Precisely.
Yeah. And I'm not going to do it. It's like, when you tell your kids to do a task, well, I'm not going to do it because you just told me to do it, Right.
Absolutely.
So that was fabulous. Very, very concrete, very real, and very, realistic. So let's move into why should I care about listening to myself, and then what can I do to do a better job tuning in?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So I think the previous question gets a little bit at why we should care.
Yes.
But I'll go a little bit more into detail with that. And, to the first one about feeling unfulfilled, that is, I think, a pretty, for me, like, that's reason enough, right? Is that when I'm not listening to myself, whether it's to take care of myself or to tune in with what is really important to me. Basically, if I'm not listening to that, I'm going to end up grinding away, working really hard, and not reaping a whole lot of satisfaction out of my efforts. And that just seems not only torturous, but no real, if anybody was aware that they were doing that, right, I don't think that they would do it. So that's one of the big things that I work on with my clients, is helping people tune in with their personal values and tune out the noise of what society or what their family or what they think they should be doing. Because a lot of times we can end up spending our whole entire life working really hard at something that doesn't matter all that much to us. And to me, that's like one of the biggest tragedies that could happen with a person's life. So that's number one of why it should matter. Because if we don't, we're not going to feel satisfied, and we're not going to feel that what we're doing is fulfilling. But number two relates with that point about the resentment, and there is actually a fair amount of research around how taking care of ourselves is a necessary component of being loving and being compassionate. And you may be familiar with Brené Brown's research, and what she said that she found in her research are that she found a very clear trend that the most compassionate people that she interviewed and interacted with in her research, she said they were absolutely also the most boundaried people. And I think that is a really powerful piece of research that perhaps goes against the conventional wisdom around setting boundaries, and, asserting our own needs and our own space, and how that goes together with compassion. But what the research actually indicates is that when we don't set boundaries, and when we don't create space for ourselves, and when we don't tell people, no, I cannot do that thing, right? Or no, I did not feel comfortable when you said that thing to me, right? When we don't set boundaries for ourselves, it makes it impossible for us to be compassionate. And so, if compassion and being loving and being forgiving of the people around us is important, we cannot do that if we don't take care of ourselves and we don't listen to ourselves. And that's not just my opinion. The research is pretty clear on that point.
Wow. Yeah, and that has been, I can vouch for my personal experience. When you get caught up in all the emotions of the resentment and the anger and the frustration, you just can't show up for your family or other people you care about the way that you can and the way that you want, because the noise in your head won't allow it.
Right. Right.
And
exactly.
Yes. And, some people, and I've learned this about me and some other people, like we're just more boundary-less.
Yeah.
And part of our life's journey and lessons is to bring in the boundaries. Because when you're a super flexible person, everything goes, but it's not that. I found in my own experience that I do have a boundary. It took a long time to get there. Took a long time to hit that wall, but it's I found it. And now it was a question of having the courage to express it to others around me.
Totally. Yeah. Right. To enforce it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I don't feel bad about that, because I can clearly see through my life that was just something that was part of my, we all have challenges in life of things that we need to learn. That was mine.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's over yet,
Yeah.
but I'm saying that a significant breakthrough has happened in my case around finding what that boundary is, and then courage to say it out loud.
Right.
And you must
Woo!
encounter this with your
Good for you.
Thank you. It's been a long journey
Yes.
for me on that one, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
No, that's huge.
Thank you.
Huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think what we often are not considering is that by setting that boundary, yes, we are doing ourselves a favor, but we are also doing everybody else a favor.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
And we're putting ourselves in a position where we can be, you know, patient and giving and forgiving, versus, you know, trying to be everything to everyone and nothing to ourselves.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And if I could add just a practical thing for the audience, that it took me a while to get a schedule established. Like on Mondays I do this, right? Saturday I made it family day. And at first, you know, I had to be strict with myself, and I didn't always respect it. And even to this day, I kind of like. However, with what you just said about how it allows you to show up and be more compassionate, I now know to have everything that's family related happen on Saturday. So I'm not scrambling in my schedule, trying to fit something in. If it's not on Saturday, I say no.
Right.
So it's easy to say no now.
I love
Saturday's family day. Great. It's on Saturday. No problem. Let's make it happen. Not on Saturday. Sorry. And even date night is Saturday night, so it can't be after 6. 10 to 6. Right? So that's a boundary, and it's a boundary that makes it easier for me to say yes or no.
Exactly. Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head with saying yes. By setting boundaries and saying no to some things, it makes the yeses that you do give more 100%, right? And it makes you more sure that you wanted to say yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And who wants to be on the receiving end of a yes that the person who gave it to them really wanted to be a no? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Because then the resentment, right? Then the resentment starts again.
Yeah, and even like as the recipient, you don't want to be receiving yeses that were supposed to be no's, and that the person on the other end is like, oh.
Yeah.
You know?
Hence that compassion thing that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and like I'll just add like one small thing. I think that when we don't set those boundaries for ourselves, and when we don't give ourselves permission to say no and take care of ourselves, I think that, you know, one thing that happens is that we do feel resentful. We do feel, you know, less patient with the people around us. I think it makes us more difficult to forgive people, right?
Yeah.
Because we aren't caring for ourselves. And I think that the other part of that is that when we don't take care of ourselves and when we don't show up for ourselves, we expect other people, consciously or subconsciously, we expect other people to do that for us. And that is not fair, right? And so, you know, I find that when I'm in a place where I'm not taking good care of myself and I feel like, oh, I'm sacrificing, you know, I'm doing all of this for others. And so when somebody doesn't do something to help me or to, you know, contribute to my well-being or says no to me, then I don't feel good about it. And that is not fair, because everybody's instinct, I believe, is to care for themselves and care for their own aliveness and their own well-being. And by showing up for ourselves and taking responsibility for our own care, we give everyone around us permission to do the same. And one of the best compliments that I ever got from my colleague and my best friend was that she said to me, she said, you know what, Sarah, I realized, you know, when we're hanging out, I realized finally that I know that you are going to show up for yourself, right? You're going to be thinking from inside your own skin about what matters to you. And because I realized that, I am able to show up to our interactions for myself. And instead of showing up and putting all my energy into worrying about you, I can just worry about myself, right? And like be in my own skin, be who I am, say what I feel. And I don't have to put all of my energy into thinking about, is Sarah taking care of herself, or does she need me to take care of her for her?
That's powerful.
Right? And that was just, I thought that was such a fantastic compliment. And when she said that, I realized that I expect the people around me to do the same, to show up for themselves and to take care of themselves. And if they don't, and they expect me to be making sure that they are okay, that doesn't feel fair. Because my job first is to take care of me. That doesn't mean I can't be empathetic, right? That doesn't mean I can't be helpful, but I need you to tell me what you need, right? I need you to tell me what you feel. I need you to tell me what facilitates your well-being. And I can't sacrifice my own well-being in order to facilitate yours, because then I die a little bit, and ultimately you don't learn how to thrive. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow. That really, what you just said really is at the core of why I'm doing this. That was so powerful.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
It sounds like sometimes it sounds a little bit selfish, but I really believe that if everyone in our lives was showing up for themselves, we would all be so much happier, you know? And it would feel like a service to us if the people that we love showed up for themselves even more than they showed up for us. You know? I didn't lose sight of your last question that was there about how we can tune in more with ourselves. And I'll just add a quick question that has really served me and that I generated with a client. And a great question that I've found to just tune in with how we want to spend our time is to ask ourselves the question, and this applies particularly with our free time, to ask ourselves the question, is this the way that I most want to spend this time? Right? So that's number one. Is this the way that I most want to spend this time?
That's a great question.
Because guess what? Like, who knew? But we get to choose how we spend our time. And number two, if the answer to that question is yes, then the next question is, do I have the energy for it? So I just love that. And one of my clients, we worked together, and he really inspired and came up with that question, particularly the second half of the question. And I just absolutely adore the insight that, first of all, the answer to that first question ought to be a yes. You know, maybe sometimes there's something that actually, you know what, I'm not even going to say that, because answering that first question, is this the way that I most want to spend this time? I think that in answering that question, we have to take into account all of the information. And so, you know, maybe our child is sick, and what we thought we wanted to do with that day is spend the day working on our book, right? But we decide, I got to stay home with my sick kid and like, you know, take care of them and pay attention to them. If that's what we decide to do, I believe that we need to understand we're doing that because taking care of our sick kid is more valuable to us than finishing our book, right? So we can own that that is the way that we most want to spend this time. Maybe it's not what we planned on, maybe it's not what we envisioned, etc. But that's the way that we most want to spend the time for whatever reason. And then number two, do I have the energy for it? So this one, sometimes we may have to do something that we don't have the energy for, like, for example, taking care of our sick kid. But if it's something that we have the autonomy and the empowerment to say no to, even if we think it will advance our career, even if it's the opportunity to connect with a beloved friend, even if it is the way that we most want to spend the time, if we don't have the energy for it and we're in a position to say no, then we should say no.
Wow. I'm just my mouth is open. Just there's so much good stuff that you've shared. I'm just really happy that you agreed to this interview. I really feel you've given a lot, and you've shared a lot of very practical, wise, helpful things. Thank you so much. And we still
thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. And we still have one question, but it's our final question. What is the one thing you'd like listeners to take away from your messages today?
The one thing that I would like listeners to take away from today is that it's important to take the time to get to know yourself, to learn what is important and meaningful to you, and that on top of that, your duty is to take care of yourself. And when you take care of yourself, you do yourself and everybody around you a favor.
So your number one job is to take care of yourself, and by doing that, you will be able to take care of everybody else.
Not necessarily.
Okay, sorry.
You might not be able to take care of everybody else. So two things. There's two things that I want people to take away. One is take the time to get to know yourself and listen to yourself. And by that I mean take the time to understand what your personal values are, what matters to you. That is probably different from what you've been taught. And number two, that your duty is to take care of yourself.
Okay.
And when you do that, you do yourself a favor and do everyone around you a favor.
Okay. Yeah, that
doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be able to take care of everyone. But if you can't take care of yourself, then you can't take care of anyone.
Right. No, though that's
Feel me?
Totally. Yes, that's very important distinctions, and I'm glad you clarified that.
Thank you for clarifying.
I'm glad you clarified it. Sorry?
Yeah, great question. Great clarification. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So we're nearing the end of our time together today, and you have a gift that you would like to leave with the listeners if they're interested. Could you tell us a little bit more about this gift?
Yes, absolutely. So the gift that I want to give everyone is an original worksheet that I have designed to help people think through good things that happen in their life as well as bad things or disappointing things in a way that maximizes the science of optimism. And so I've designed these questions in such a way that essentially allow you or force you to look at a situation optimistically, and without, coming up with anything that you don't believe, but simply by looking at the facts at hand. And one of the main components of optimism as it relates with listening to ourselves is that when something goes wrong, we are able to not fall into the trap of blaming it on ourselves, and getting stuck in that place of self-blame and self-pity. And that when something goes well, we are able to think about the role that we played in that thing going well and how to build upon it.
Okay. Wow. That sounds very, very powerful. Very helpful, especially following after all of the great ideas that you've shared today. I'm sure the listeners will really find that helpful.
Yeah, it's helpful to me. It can be very hard to shift our way of thinking without specific prompts.
Yeah.
So that's what this worksheet is designed to do, is
Excellent.
to give us those prompts.
Wonderful. Yeah. That's wonderful. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Giselle.
Oh, yes. No problem. My pleasure. And I want to thank the listeners for coming here today and listening to Sara share her thoughts and ideas on living the life that you want. And tune in to the next interviews coming up. More ways and ideas and practical strategies to help you learn how to overcome the adversity in your life, find your way to happiness, and truly live the life of your dreams, because it is possible. So thank you, everyone, and have a good day.